Vanessa Cole slapped me so hard in the hospital hallway that my teeth cut the inside of my cheek. My husband, Daniel Reed, did not reach for me. He stepped in front of his mistress, put one protective hand on her shoulder and said, "Emma, apologize to her." For a second the whole corridor went quiet. A nurse froze beside the medication cart, a family near the elevator stopped whispering, somewhere behind me a monitor kept beeping in a steady rhythm, calm and cruel, as if my life had not just split open in public. I tasted blood. Vanessa pressed one hand to her flat stomach and let her eyes fill with tears. "She scared me, Daniel. She came at me like she wanted to hurt the baby." The baby, his baby. The words landed harder than the slap. I looked at Daniel, waiting for the man I had married to deny it, to flinch, to at least have the decency to look ashamed. He only lowered his voice. "You have already made enough of a scene. She is pregnant. You need to apologize before this becomes worse." I was wearing a hospital wristband. My own medical report was folded in my shaking hand. I had come in alone because I had been bleeding since dawn and Daniel had not answered any of my calls. Now I knew why. He had been here with her. I did not scream, I did not grab Vanessa. I did not beg Daniel to remember I was his wife. I touched the recording button on my phone inside my coat pocket, looked at him one last time and said, "Say that again." His eyes narrowed. "Do not make me repeat myself. I want you to." Vanessa sniffed. "Daniel, she is trying to trap you." "No," I said softly, "you already did that yourself." Then I turned, opened the door to my examination room and let my 3 brothers walk in. Adrian was the first one through the door. He was the oldest of my brothers and the only person I knew who could make silence feel like a legal warning. He wore a dark coat over a grey suit, his expression calm enough to frighten people who understood what calm meant in our family. Miles came behind him, still in his scrubs, his hospital badge clipped to his chest. He did not look at Daniel first, he looked at me. His eyes moved from my cheek to my wristband, then to the way I was holding my abdomen without realizing it. Noah came in last, hair damp from the rain, phone already in his hand. He was the youngest, the fastest to anger and the best at hiding it behind a smile that promised consequences. Daniel stared at them as if the floor had opened. "Emma," he said, and for the first time that day uncertainty entered his voice. "What is this?" "This," Adrian said, "is her family." Vanessa blinked quickly. She had met my brothers once at our wedding, but Daniel had spent 5 years convincing himself they were distant, rich, cold men who had no interest in my life. It helped him believe I was alone. It helped him forget that I had chosen distance, not been abandoned. Miles stepped closer to me. "Did she hit you?" Vanessa gasped. I defended myself. "She came at me." I almost laughed. I would have if my cheek did not hurt and my body did not feel like it was trying to fold in on itself. "She slapped me," I said, "in front of the nurse's station." Daniel exhaled sharply. "Emma, do not twist this." Noah raised his phone slightly. "Careful, Daniel, you are doing beautifully so far. I would hate for you to stop." Daniel's jaw tightened. "This is a private matter." Adrian looked around the public hospital corridor, at the nurse still pretending not to listen, at the patients watching from plastic chairs, at Vanessa clutching Daniel's sleeve like a stage actress waiting for applause. "A woman being assaulted in a hospital hallway is not private," Adrian said. "A doctor pressuring his wife to apologize to his mistress after that assault is also not private." Vanessa's face changed, just a flicker, but I saw it. She had expected tears, not witnesses. She had expected me to collapse into shame, not open the door. Daniel noticed the nurse watching and lowered his voice. "You are making this worse." "No," Miles said, stepping between Daniel and me. "She is bleeding. She was examined in this department. You are standing here defending the woman who just struck her." Daniel's eyes darted to my wristband. Bleeding. It hurt that he had not known. It hurt more that I no longer wanted him to touch me after learning it. I folded the medical report tighter. "You did not answer your phone." "I was with Vanessa because she had a scare," he said too quickly. Vanessa nodded, pressing closer. I almost fainted. Miles stared at her. "Then you should not be standing in a hallway picking fights." Her mouth opened, then shut. For 5 years, I had been the quiet wife at Daniel's side. I had smoothed his temper before dinners, remembered his mother's prescriptions, sent money when his father's old debts resurfaced, wrote thank you notes to donors he forgot, and turned myself into the soft background of his ambition. That was why Daniel looked stunned now. He had never seen what happened when I stopped softening the room for him. "Emma," Daniel said again. "Quieter. Come inside, we can talk." We were inside. I said, "You told me to apologize." His eyes moved toward my coat pocket. "Are you recording me?" I did not answer. Adrian did. "I sincerely hope she is." The nurse by the cart finally moved. Her name tag read Maya Torres. She looked young, maybe late 20s, with tired eyes and a steady face. "Mrs. Reed," she said carefully. "Dr. Patel asked that you return to the examination room." Daniel stiffened at the name. "Dr. Patel saw you." "I told you," I said. "You did not answer." Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "Daniel, she is trying to make this about her." Noah laughed once. It was not a happy sound. "Incredible, she is wearing a hospital wristband, has a slap mark on her face, and is somehow still not allowed to make this about her." Daniel's face flushed. He hated being embarrassed, more than betrayal, more than cruelty, more than lies. Daniel hated being seen losing control. "Everyone needs to calm down," he said. "I am calm," I said. That was the problem. He knew me well enough to fear it. Maya glanced toward the ceiling camera, then at me. Her voice was low. "For what it is worth, the hallway cameras are working today." Vanessa's fingers tightened around Daniel's arm. Adrian caught it too. "Thank you." Daniel turned on the nurse. "That is inappropriate." Miles did not raise his voice. "No, Daniel, what is inappropriate is you speaking to staff like that while standing beside the woman who assaulted a patient. A patient, not wife, not problem, not jealous woman, patient." The word cut through the noise and gave me something to stand on. My legs trembled. I hated that everyone could see it, but Miles saw first and placed a hand near my elbow without grabbing me. "Can you walk?" he asked. I nodded. Daniel reached out then, finally. "Too late." "Emma, wait." I stepped back. His hand stopped in the air between us. For 5 years I would have filled that space. I would have taken his hand because leaving it empty would have felt cruel. I would have comforted him for hurting me. I would have made his guilt easier to bear. "Not today. Do not touch me," I said. Vanessa made a soft broken sound. "Daniel, I feel dizzy." Daniel turned to her automatically. That one movement finished what the slap had started. Adrian looked at me. "Emma, do you want to file an incident report?" Daniel snapped. "You do not need to file anything." I kept my eyes on Adrian. "Yes." Vanessa straightened. "What?" "I want the incident documented. I want the security footage preserved. I want the names of witnesses, and I want a copy of any statement Daniel tries to make about me." Daniel's mouth tightened. "You are overreacting." I looked at him then, really looked. His hair was still perfect, his white coat was still clean, his hand was still on Vanessa's shoulder. He looked like a respectable man protecting a fragile woman, and I looked like the wife he had trained the world to ignore. "I have underreacted for 5 years, I said. That ended in this hallway. The elevator doors opened behind us. 2 security officers stepped out, summoned by someone who had more sense than my husband. Vanessa shrank closer to Daniel, but her eyes kept flicking toward the camera. Adrian took a card from his wallet and handed it to Maya. "Please make sure the hospital's legal office receives a formal preservation request within the hour. If footage disappears, that becomes a separate matter." Daniel stared at the card. He knew Adrian Hayes by reputation. Everyone in the city's legal circles did. He just had never wanted to admit that my Adrian and that Adrian were the same man. "Hayes Legal Group," Daniel said. Adrian's expression did not change. "Yes." Vanessa looked at Daniel. "You said her family was not involved." I smiled then, just a little, though it hurt my split lip. Daniel heard the accusation inside her sentence. Her family was not involved. As if he had promised her I came without backup, as if my loneliness had been part of the attraction. "My family respects boundaries," I said. "They do not ignore emergencies." Daniel flinched. "Good." Miles guided me toward the examination room. Noah stayed slightly behind, angling his phone low, not filming faces, just making sure the conversation could not vanish. At the door, I paused. Vanessa had her hand on Daniel's chest now. "Please do not let her do this to us." Us, the word should have broken me. Instead, it clarified everything. "There is no us left for you to protect," I told Daniel. Then I walked into the room with my brothers, and for the first time in years I let the door close between my husband and me. Dr. Anika Patel had the kind of face that made bad news easier to hear and impossible to avoid. She waited until I was seated on the edge of the examination bed before she spoke. Miles stood near the wall with his arms folded, not as a doctor now, But as my brother trying not to panic, Adrian stood by the counter, reading every form within reach. Noah leaned against the closed door as if Daniel might burst through it at any second. Emma, Dr. Patel said, "I need to explain your results clearly." I nodded, my cheek throbbed, my lower abdomen cramped in waves. The room smelled like antiseptic and paper sheets. My phone was still recording in my coat pocket, though now all it would capture was the sound of my own breathing. "You were pregnant," she said gently. The word was small, but it took all the air out of the room. Noah's face changed first, the smile disappeared. Miles closed his eyes for half a second. Adrian looked down at the file in his hands as if he had found a line of text he wanted to erase. I had known before she said it. I had known when the bleeding started before dawn, when I sat on the bathroom floor calling Daniel again and again while the screen lit up and went dark. I had known when I drove myself to the hospital with one hand pressed to my stomach and the other clenched around the steering wheel. Still, hearing it made something inside me go very quiet. "How far?" I asked. "About 8 weeks, Dr. Patel said. "The bleeding and test results indicate an early pregnancy loss. I am so sorry." 8 weeks. 8 weeks ago, Daniel had come home late, smelling like rain and another woman's perfume. I had asked where he was. He had kissed my forehead and said, "Do not start, I am tired." I had apologized for asking. I wondered if that was the night. I wondered why my mind wanted a detail to hold when the whole truth was already unbearable. Miles stepped forward. "Is she medically stable?" Dr. Patel answered him but kept her eyes on me. "Physically, yes, though she needs rest and follow-up care. Emotionally, she should not be under stress right now." Noah made a sound under his breath. "Stress." A mistress's palm across my face, my husband's hand on her shoulder. His demand that I apologize while my own child was already gone. Dr. Patel continued, "There is also bruising on your cheek and a small cut inside your mouth. I will document both." "Please do," I said. Adrian looked up. "And the timing of the examination, it is in the chart," Dr. Patel said. "She was checked in before the hallway incident." That mattered. I did not know exactly how yet, but I could see it click into place in Adrian's mind. Daniel would not be able to claim I came to the hospital to stalk Vanessa. I had my own medical emergency. A knock hit the door. Noah did not move. Daniel's voice came through. "Emma, open the door." My body reacted before my mind did. My shoulders tightened. Miles saw and moved closer. Adrian opened the door only a few inches, keeping his body between Daniel and the room. "This is not a good time," he said. "I need to speak to my wife." "Your wife is being treated. I am a doctor in this hospital." Miles stepped into Daniel's line of sight. "Not her doctor." Daniel's gaze moved past them and landed on me. For 1 second I thought he might see it, the bed, the blood pressure cuff, Dr. Patel's serious face. My brothers standing like a wall because they knew I had just lost something I had not even had time to name. Then Vanessa appeared behind him. She had found a wheelchair somehow. She sat in it like a queen. In mourning, one hand still resting on her stomach. "She is upset," Daniel said, as if that explained anything. "Vanessa says your brothers threatened her." Noah laughed again. "She slapped Emma and is now upset by consequences. That is tragic." Daniel ignored him. "Emma, you need to tell them to back off." I looked at Dr. Patel. "Am I required to discuss anything with him?" "No," she said. "Not if you do not want to." Daniel's face hardened. He was not used to my refusals having witnesses. "Emma," he said softly, the voice he used when he wanted me to feel unreasonable. "Do not do this. Not here. Not here." I repeated. "Where would be better? At home, after you bring her into our bedroom at dinner, while your mother tells me I should be grateful you still keep me as your wife." His eyes flicked toward my brothers. He hated that I had said it out loud. Vanessa's voice trembled. "I never wanted to hurt your marriage." Noah looked at her. "You picked a strange hobby then." "Enough." Daniel snapped. The room went still. There he was, the real Daniel. Not the polished surgeon, not the wounded husband, not the reasonable man trapped between two emotional women. Just a man furious that the woman he controlled had found an audience he could not charm. Adrian held up one hand. "Let us be very clear. Emma will not sign anything today. She will not apologize today. She will not speak to hospital administration without counsel present. Any further contact should go through me." Daniel blinked. "Counsel?" "Yes," I said. His eyes came back to me. "You called a lawyer." "I called my brother." "Same thing." Noah said. Vanessa gripped the arms of her wheelchair. Daniel, this is harassment. She is trying to punish us because of the baby. I looked at her stomach. Once that word would have made me crumble. Now it sounded like a weapon made of glass, transparent, sharp, breakable. Congratulations, I said. Vanessa froze. Daniel looked confused. Emma, I kept my voice even. If she is pregnant, congratulations. I hope the baby is healthy. I also hope the child grows up with a better understanding of loyalty than either parent. Vanessa's mouth fell open. Daniel stepped forward. You do not get to speak to her like that. Miles moved before I could. Take one more step toward my sister and security gets a second call. Daniel stopped. It was not fear exactly, it was calculation. He was beginning to understand the old rules did not apply. I reached into my coat pocket and stopped the recording. The small click sounded louder than it should have. Daniel heard it. His face went pale. Emma, I took out the phone and held it in my lap. You told me to apologize after she hit me. You were provoking her. On record, Adrian said quietly. I would recommend you stop. Daniel's eyes burned. You are enjoying this. No, I said, that is the difference between us. The anger in his face faltered just briefly. Good. Let him wonder what had replaced my grief. Dr. Patel printed the discharge instructions herself. She gave them to me in a folder along with a copy of my examination summary and a note documenting the injury to my face. When she handed it over, her fingers rested lightly on the file. Keep this somewhere safe. I will, I said. Maya appeared at the door a few minutes later. No medication cart this time. Her posture was careful, but her voice was steady. Mrs. Reed, I have been asked to complete a witness statement. I saw Ms. Cole strike you. I also heard Dr. Reed ask you to apologize. Daniel had not left the hallway. I knew because I saw his shadow shift through the narrow window in the door. Thank you, I said. Maya swallowed. I am sorry this happened here. The words nearly undid me. Not Daniel's betrayal, not Vanessa's performance. A stranger's simple acknowledgement almost broke me because it did not require me to earn it. Adrian took the hospital preservation request from his briefcase and filled in the necessary details. Miles asked Dr. Patel follow-up questions. Noah photographed the bruise on my cheek with my permission, time-stamped and backed up. No one asked me to be strong. That helped me stay upright when it was time to leave. Daniel was still outside. Vanessa was gone. Of course she was. She had performed the injury and escaped before the paperwork could catch up. Daniel stood alone near the wall, his white coat open, his hands in his pockets. He looked tired, handsome, familiar, like the man I had once waited up for with soup cooling on the stove. Emma, he said, softer now. Why did Dr. Patel see you? I held the folder against my chest. For 5 years I would have told him. I would have handed him the report and watched his reaction, desperate to know whether pain could bring him back to me. But grief shared with the wrong person becomes another wound. You refused to read the report when it was in my hand. I said, you do not get to ask for it now. His brows drew together. I did not know. No, I said, you did not care. I walked past him. He reached for my wrist, then stopped when all 3 of my brothers turned at once. His hand fell as I stepped into the elevator. Daniel said, this is not over. I looked at him through the closing doors. For once, I said, you are right. The house smelled like Vanessa's perfume. That was the first thing I noticed when Noah unlocked the front door with the spare key I had given him years ago and never thought he would need. Gardenia and amber. Sweet, heavy, expensive in a way that tried too hard. My own home had never smelled like that. I used lemon soap, coffee, and the lavender sachets my mother used to tuck into linen closets. Daniel had once said my taste was too quiet. Apparently he had found someone louder. Are you sure you want to do this today? Miles asked behind me. No. Yes, I said. Adrian had wanted me to stay at his house after leaving the hospital. Miles wanted me in bed. Noah wanted 10 minutes alone with Daniel's car. I wanted documents. Pain clarified priorities. I stepped inside. The entry table held a vase of white roses I had not bought. Beside it sat Vanessa's sunglasses, a pair of gold earrings, and a lipstick tube with the cap missing. A woman marks territory in small ways before she dares to claim the whole house. Noah muttered something I chose not to hear. I walked into the living room. My wedding photo was gone from the mantel. In its place stood a framed picture from a hospital charity event 6 months earlier. Daniel in a tuxedo, Vanessa beside him in silver silk, her hand resting lightly on his arm. I remembered that event. I had stayed home addressing donor letters because Daniel said he needed the evening to be professional. Professional. I touched the empty space where our photo had been. Miles said, "Emma, I am fine. You do not have to be." I did not answer because if I started I might not stop. We moved through the house with purpose. Adrian made a list. Noah opened drawers and photographed anything relevant. Miles stayed close enough to catch me if my body gave out, which irritated me until I realized I was grateful. In Daniel's office, the betrayal became paper, a credit card statement with charges from a boutique hotel downtown, receipts from a jewelry store, a handwritten note in Vanessa's looping script. "I hate leaving you in her bed." I stared at that line for a long time, not because it surprised me, because it told me Vanessa had been here before, in this room in my house, close enough to know which bed was supposed to be mine. Noah reached for the note. "Do you want me to bag it? This is not a crime scene," I said. Adrian looked at the note. "Not yet." I almost smiled. We found the file I needed in the back of Daniel's lower desk drawer. He had always hated paperwork. That was why I had managed the household records, the insurance renewals, his mother's medical invoices, the loan restructuring after his father died, and the donor packet that helped him earn a fellowship he later pretended was entirely his own achievement. The folder was blue. My mother's trust documents were inside. Daniel had made notes in the margin of one transfer record, available if needed. My stomach turned. That money had been set aside for patient advocacy work. I had used part of it to support Daniel's research after he cried in my arms and said one failed grant might ruin his career. I had told myself it was our future. He had marked my inheritance like a spare account. Noah leaned over my shoulder and went very still. He wrote that, "Yes. I am going to need another 10 minutes with his car." "Noah," Adrian said. "What?" I did not say I would use tools. I closed the folder. No cars, no threats, no dramatic revenge that gives him a way to make me look unstable. Noah looked at me, then really looked. The anger in his face softened into something closer to pride. "Okay," he said. "Clean revenge." "Not revenge," I said. Adrian's brow lifted. I breathed through another cramp. "Evidence." We were in the bedroom when I saw the dress. Vanessa's red dress lay across the chair near my vanity, silk, low-backed, with the tag still attached. My jewelry box was open beside it. For a second my vision blurred, not because of the dress, because my wedding ring dish was empty. I crossed the room and opened the top drawer. My ring was there, shoved between old receipts and a spare phone charger. Daniel had not even had the decency to leave it somewhere safe. He had cleared the vanity for her and pushed my marriage into a drawer. I took the ring out. It was a simple oval diamond set in platinum. Daniel chose it before his career took off, when we still ate cheap Thai food on the floor of his apartment and laughed about being broke. I had loved that ring because it came from before ambition hollowed him out. Maybe that was the lie I loved most, that there had been a before worth saving. I walked downstairs with the ring in my palm. Daniel's mother, Grace Reed, was in the kitchen. She stood by the marble island wearing pearls and a cream sweater, stirring tea as if she lived here. She had a key. Of course she had a key. I had given it to her after her knee surgery and never asked for it back. Her eyes moved over my brother's, then settled on my cheek. "What happened to your face?" she asked. I almost admired the performance, not concern. "Inventory. Vanessa slapped me at the hospital." Grace sighed. "Then you must have said something to upset her." Noah made a sharp movement, but I lifted one hand. Grace looked at him with distaste. "There is no need for your family to crowd into a private marital issue," Adrian said. "A private marital issue that involved assault, fraud concerns, and coercion in a hospital." Grace's lips thinned. "Lawyers always make things ugly." "No," I said. "People do ugly things, lawyers write them down." She turned to me. "Emma, you are hurt, I understand, but Daniel is under pressure. Vanessa is carrying his child. You have to think clearly." "I am." "Then think about appearances. Divorce would destroy him. The hospital board watches everything. Patients trust him. Donors trust him." I let out a quiet laugh. "Do you?" She blinked. "Do you trust him, or do you trust me to keep cleaning up after him?" Her face hardened. There it was, the part she usually hid under manners. "You were a good wife when you understood your role." Miles stepped forward. "Careful." Grace ignored him. "Daniel needed peace at home. You gave him that. Do not throw away 5 years because of one emotional day." "One emotional day." I repeated. My child was gone. My husband's mistress had slapped me. My mother-in-law was asking me to protect his reputation. Something in me settled into place. I walked to the kitchen island and placed my wedding ring on the marble. Grace stared at it. What are you doing? Returning a role I no longer accept. The front door opened. Daniel walked in, rain on his coat, panic under his anger. His eyes went straight to the ring. Emma, he said, do not be dramatic. I picked up the blue folder. I came for my documents. What documents? The ones you marked as available if needed. His face went white. Noah saw it, Adrian saw it, Grace saw it and quickly looked away. Daniel shut the door behind him. You went through my office. Our office, I said. Our house, our accounts, our marriage. Strange how you only remember privacy after betrayal. Vanessa appeared behind him. She had changed clothes, soft pink sweater, no wheelchair, no dizziness. Her eyes went to the ring on the counter, and satisfaction flashed across her face before she smothered it. I did not know you would be here, she said. In my house, I asked. Daniel's voice sharpened. Emma, enough. Vanessa touched his arm. Maybe I should go. No, I said. Stay, you have been comfortable here already. Her cheeks colored. Grace said, Emma, apologize before this gets worse. There it was again, apologize, the word that had held my marriage together like a rusted nail. I opened my phone, logged into the banking app Daniel never checked because I had always handled the transfers, and cancelled the scheduled monthly payment to Grace's private care account. A notification appeared, transfer cancelled. Daniel's phone pinged a second later. Grace looked confused. Daniel looked down, read the alert and lifted his head slowly. What did you do? I stopped paying for a family that no longer considers me family. Grace gripped the counter. You cannot do that. I just did. Daniel's voice dropped. Emma, turn it back on. No. His eyes darkened. You are punishing my mother. No, I said. I am removing myself from a bill that was never mine. Vanessa's expression cracked. Daniel, you told me she did not control the money. The room went silent. I looked at Daniel. He closed his eyes briefly. So he had told her that too. He had promised her access without understanding the lock. Adrian gathered the folders. We are done here. Daniel stepped in front of me. You are not leaving with those. I looked at him. Move. For years that single word would have terrified me. I would have softened it. Please move. Daniel, not now. Let us talk later. Not today. He did not move. Miles did. My brother did not touch him. He simply stepped beside me and looked Daniel in the eyes. Daniel moved. At the door, Vanessa called after me, her voice thin and sharp. You can take your papers, Emma. You still cannot give him what I can. I stopped, then I turned back. She smiled, hand on her stomach. I looked from her to Daniel to Grace. All three standing in the house I had made livable with my money, my labor, my silence. You are right, I said. I cannot give him another woman to hide behind. Then I walked out into the rain without my ring. Daniel waited 36 hours before trying tenderness. That was longer than I expected. He sent no apology for the hospital, no message about the medical report, no question about my health. First came anger, then silence, then a short text on Friday afternoon. We need to talk like adults. Mom is hosting dinner Sunday. Come alone. I read it at Adrian's dining table with a cup of tea cooling beside my hand. Miles had forced me to stay at his guest suite for the first night. Then Adrian moved me into the quiet apartment above his carriage house because it had fewer stairs and more locks. Noah had already installed a new security camera at the entrance. My brothers were not subtle men. I typed back one word, fine. Adrian looked up from his laptop. You do not have to go. I know. Then why? Because they think dinner is a stage where I can be pressured into behaving. I set the phone down. I want to see the script. Noah, sprawled in the armchair with a bowl of cereal he had no business eating at 4 in the afternoon, pointed his spoon at me. That is either very strategic or very stupid. Both can be true, Miles said from the doorway. I did not tell them the real reason. Part of me needed to see Daniel surrounded by his people, not the man cornered in a hospital hallway, not the man panicking over a cancelled transfer, the Daniel everyone else knew, charming, controlled, reasonable, the Daniel who had convinced me for years that if I was hurt, I must have misunderstood him. I needed to watch him lie with a clear head. Sunday evening, I wore a black dress with long sleeves and flat shoes because my body was still weak. I covered the fading bruise with makeup, then wiped half of it off. Let them see. Grace's house glowed when I arrived, every window lit, every curtain drawn. Inside I could hear laughter, glasses, the murmur of family voices. Daniel opened the door before I rang. He looked tired. Good, you came, he said. You invited me. His eyes moved over my face, pausing at the faint yellow edge of the bruise. You did not cover it. I covered enough. His jaw flexed. Can we please not make this hostile? I stepped inside. Then do not be hostile. The dining room was full. Grace sat at the head of the table like a judge. Daniel's aunt, his cousin, 2 family friends, and Vanessa sat among them. Vanessa wore pale blue and a delicate gold necklace I recognized from the jewelry receipt in Daniel's desk. My money had probably paid for it. There was one empty chair, not beside Daniel, not where I used to sit, at the far end near the kitchen door. I looked at it, then at Grace. She smiled. We thought Vanessa should sit near Daniel in case she feels unwell. Vanessa lowered her eyes. I told them I did not want to cause trouble. No, I said, you prefer it caused for you. Daniel's aunt inhaled sharply. Daniel touched my elbow. I stepped away before his fingers settled. Emma, he warned. There it was, the tone that used to make me behave. I pulled out the chair near the kitchen and sat. Dinner began with soup and lies. Grace spoke of family unity. Daniel's cousin talked too loudly about hospital politics. Vanessa ate almost nothing and accepted everyone's concern like offerings at an altar. Daniel played exhausted mediator. Every few minutes he looked at me as if waiting for me to explode. I ate the soup. It was too salty. Halfway through the meal, Grace set down her spoon. Emma, we invited you because we love you. Noah would have laughed. I simply looked at her. We know this situation is painful, she continued, but bitterness will not help anyone. Daniel made a mistake. Vanessa is carrying a child. The child is innocent. Daniel stared at his plate. Vanessa touched her napkin to the corner of her eye. Grace leaned forward. You have always wanted a family. This is your chance to show what kind of woman you are. I set down my spoon. What kind would that be? A generous one? A quiet one? I said. Grace's smile hardened. A mature one. Daniel finally looked at me. Emma, I am not asking you to forget. I am asking you not to destroy everything. I did not slap myself in a hospital, Vanessa whispered. I was scared. I turned to her. Of what? Her eyes widened. Of my hospital wristband, my medical folder, my asking why my husband was with you while I was in the emergency department. Daniel said, you approached her aggressively. I took my phone from my purse and placed it on the table. The room went still. Daniel's face changed first. I pressed play. Vanessa's voice filled the dining room. She came at me like she wanted to hurt the baby. Then Daniel's, you have already made enough of a scene. She is pregnant. You need to apologize before this becomes worse. My own voice followed, quiet and clear. Say that again. A spoon clattered somewhere near the middle of the table. I stopped the recording. No one spoke. Grace's eyes had gone flat with anger, not at Daniel, at me for bringing proof to a performance. Daniel pushed back his chair. You recorded me, yes. At the hospital, after your mistress hit me. Vanessa stood so quickly her chair scraped the floor. This is illegal. Adrian had already checked. It is not, I said, not in a public hallway, not when I was part of the conversation, and not when it concerns an assault against me. Daniel stared. Adrian told you that? I asked. That seemed to bother him more than the recording. Grace's voice cut through the room. You came here prepared to humiliate us. No, I said. You invited me here prepared to shame me into silence. I came prepared not to be silenced. Daniel's aunt looked at Vanessa, then at my cheek. The cousin stopped drinking. There it was, the shift, tiny, imperfect, but real. Vanessa saw it too. Her tears sharpened into anger. You are cruel. You know I am carrying his child. I looked at Daniel. Did you hear a heartbeat? He blinked. What? Did you see a medical record, a blood test, anything from this hospital? Vanessa went pale. Grace snapped. That is disgusting. What is disgusting is using a child as a shield while refusing to answer basic questions. Daniel's face tightened. Vanessa showed me the ultrasound. From where? Vanessa pressed a hand to her stomach. I do not have to prove my body to the woman who attacked me. You attacked me, I said. And yes, you will have to prove whatever you use in court. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Court. I opened my purse and took out the incident report number, the preservation request copy, and a folded page from Adrian's office. I filed for legal separation Friday morning. Grace rose halfway from her chair. You what? Daniel did not move, he just stared at me as if I had spoken in a language he once knew and had forgotten. You cannot file without talking to me, he said. I did. Vanessa sank slowly back into her chair, the victory she had been tasting all evening curdled in front of her. Daniel stood. Emma, come outside. No, now. I looked up at him. Sit down, Daniel. For a moment, I thought he might grab my arm, maybe he thought so too. Then the dining room doorbell rang, everyone jumped. Grace looked toward the hall, irritated. Who is that? I folded my napkin and stood. My ride. Daniel's voice lowered. You brought your brothers. No, I said. I brought a boundary. I walked to the door myself. Noah stood on the porch wearing a ridiculous grin and holding a paper bag. I brought pie in case the emotional violence got boring. Behind me, Daniel cursed under his breath. I did not look back. Vanessa followed me into the hallway before I stepped outside. Her face was different without an audience, harder, meaner. You think your brothers scare me, she whispered. No, they cannot protect you from losing everything. I looked at her carefully. Everything, she smiled. Daniel told me about the accounts, about the house, about how tired he is of being tied to your family's money. Once the baby comes, no judge will leave him with nothing. There it was, not love, not fear, not motherhood, calculation. I leaned closer. Vanessa, if you are going to threaten me, try not to confess motive first. Her smile flickered. Noah called from the porch. Emma. I stepped outside. As I reached the car, my phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. This is Maya. From the hospital. I heard what happened. If you need a witness statement, I will give one. I stared at the screen, rain gathering on the glass. Then I looked back at the bright house full of people who had expected me to come alone and leave ashamed. Not anymore. Money tells the truth people spend years trying to hide. Noah said that on Monday morning while spreading 5 years of my marriage across Adrian's conference table, bank statements, wire transfers, loan documents, care invoices, credit card bills, donation receipts, mortgage payments, private clinic fees for Grace, a fellowship application fee Daniel had forgotten I paid, a consulting invoice for Vanessa, billed to a project my mother's trust had quietly supported. My marriage had become a ledger, line by line. I watched love turn into withdrawals. I need you to understand something, Noah said. This is not just you helping a spouse, this is a pattern. I know. No, Emma, I mean a legal pattern. He used separate assets while representing them as marital contributions. He let you pay obligations attached to his family while shifting his income into accounts you did not control. Adrian looked up. That matters. I sat at the head of the table because Adrian insisted. My body still felt hollow, but my mind was clearer than it had been in years. Explain it to me like I am not your sister, I said. Adrian removed his glasses. You signed a prenuptial agreement before the wedding. It protected your premarital assets, including your mother's trust. It also included disclosure requirements. Daniel was required to disclose significant debts, outside accounts, and any asset transfers connected to family obligations. He did not, Noah said, sliding a page toward me. This account was opened 2 years ago. His bonuses went here. Meanwhile, your trust distributions paid his mother's care, his father's remaining debt settlement, and part of the mortgage. The room tilted slightly. Miles noticed. Emma, I am listening. Adrian pointed to another page. There is also an infidelity clause. I almost laughed. People still use those. Our mother insisted, Adrian said. You thought it was old-fashioned. She said love should never require financial blindness. My throat tightened. My mother had died 3 years before Daniel's affair, but somehow she had left a hand on my shoulder. What does it mean? I asked. It means if Daniel's infidelity is proven, certain property claims shift. It also strengthens your position regarding reimbursement of separate funds. Noah tapped the hospital incident report number. And if his mistress's conduct plus his coercion can be tied to reputational or emotional damages, that is separate leverage. I do not want leverage, I said. Adrian's expression softened. Then call it protection. That word I could accept. Miles placed a folder in front of me. Dr. Patel's report. She documented the miscarriage, the facial injury, and the timing. You were admitted before the hallway incident. She also noted you reported repeated stress and lack of support at home. I touched the edge of the file but did not open it. The baby had become evidence. I hated that. I hated that Daniel's cruelty had forced my grief into paperwork. Miles sat beside me. You do not have to use every piece of this. Yes, I said, I do. Adrian frowned. Emma, if I do not, they will rewrite it. They will say I was jealous, unstable, violent. They will say Vanessa was pregnant and frightened. Daniel will stand there in his white coat looking exhausted and noble. And everyone will believe him because I spent 5 years making him look good. No one argued because they knew I was right. My phone rang. Daniel, we all stared at it. Noah said, let it rot. I answered on speaker. Daniel's voice filled the room. You cancelled the transfer again. Correct. My mother's care team called me. Then you should call them back. She has appointments. She has a son. A pause, then lower. Emma, this is cruel. I looked at the papers in front of me, the invoices, the jewelry receipts, the secret account. No, I said, cruel was letting your mother believe I owed her care because I was your wife while you spent money on Vanessa. His breath shifted. You went through my finances, our finances. You had no right. I had every right to accounts I funded. Adrian slid a note toward me. Do not argue, state position. I nodded. Daniel, all communication about finances goes through counsel from now on. Silence, then a bitter laugh. Counsel, so that is what we are now. That is what you made necessary. His voice softened suddenly. Emma, please, we are both angry. I know things got out of hand at the hospital. Things, a slap became things, a lost pregnancy became things, betrayal became things. I closed my eyes. Did you know Vanessa was wearing a necklace I paid for? He said nothing. Did you bring her into our bedroom, Emma? Did you? Another silence. Noah looked like he might throw the phone through the wall. Daniel finally said, I made mistakes. Mistakes are missed birthdays, forgotten groceries, a careless sentence after a hard day. I opened my eyes. You built another life inside mine and asked me to apologize when it touched me. His voice changed, less soft now. You are being coached. I almost smiled. There it was. He could not imagine my anger unless a man explained it to me. No, I said, I am being heard. Adrian's mouth pressed into a thin line that might have been approval. Daniel said, I want to meet without your brothers. No, you are my wife. Not for long. He inhaled sharply. Do not threaten me. I filed already. You think I will let you walk away and take everything? Daniel, I said, and my voice was so calm even I barely recognized it. I am not taking everything. I am taking back what was mine before you decided loyalty was optional. He hung up. Noah applauded once. That was beautiful. I did not feel beautiful. I felt tired, but tired was not the same as weak. Adrian opened the divorce petition. We need to decide what you want. I want the house sold or bought out at fair value. I want reimbursement for separate funds used for his family obligations. I want my trust removed from every project attached to Daniel. I want a no-contact order if Vanessa keeps threatening me. I want the hospital incident preserved. I want him to stop using my name with donors. And emotionally, Miles asked, the question surprised me. I looked at the bare conference table, at the neat stacks of proof, at the life I had mistaken for love because it kept asking for sacrifice. Emotionally, I said, I want him to know I did not leave because Vanessa won. I left because he made staying an insult. Adrian nodded, then he turned the petition toward me. Sign here. The pen felt heavier than it should have. My hand shook once before I steadied it. Emma Hayes Reed. I stopped before writing the final surname. For years, Reed had been the name I used on tax forms, invitations, prescriptions, donor letters, hotel reservations, sympathy cards, Christmas gifts, and hospital emergency contacts. I crossed out Reed on the draft line and wrote Hayes. Adrian did not comment. Noah looked away. Miles put one hand on the back of my chair. I signed, not because I no longer hurt, because I finally understood pain was not a command to stay. That evening, Daniel received the petition. He called 12 times. I did not answer. At 10:43 p.m., he sent one message, "You are making the biggest mistake of your life." I stared at it for a while, then I took a screenshot, forwarded it to Adrian, and turned off my phone. The hospital administration office was designed to make conflict look respectable: glass walls, pale carpet, abstract art in calming shades of blue, a coffee station in the corner, a table polished so brightly it reflected the people sitting around it, as if everyone needed to see what their dignity looked like from below. Daniel was already there when I arrived with Adrian. Vanessa sat beside him in a cream coat, her hair pulled back, her face pale but carefully made up. She had a folder in front of her and a tissue in one hand. Grace sat on Daniel's other side. which told me exactly what kind of meeting this was. Not reconciliation, containment. Across the table sat Catherine Lowe, hospital risk management, and a man from legal whose smile looked rented. Mrs. Reed, Catherine said. Thank you for coming, Ms. Hayes. I corrected. Daniel's eyes snapped up. Grace made a small offended sound. Catherine recovered quickly. Ms. Hayes, we appreciate your willingness to resolve this matter discreetly. Adrian pulled out. My chair. We are here to listen, nothing more. Daniel leaned forward. Emma, this is getting out of control. I did not look at him. I looked at the folder in front of Vanessa. What is that? Vanessa dabbed her eye. A statement. Adrian's gaze sharpened. Prepared by whom? Daniel answered. By people trying to prevent unnecessary damage. Adrian smiled and I felt the temperature in the room drop. That did not answer my question. Catherine cleared her throat. The hospital is concerned about conflicting narratives. Dr. Reed is a respected member of our surgical team. Ms. Cole is connected to several donor initiatives. We believe a mutual statement may help de-escalate. Mutual, I said. The legal man slid a paper toward Adrian. Adrian read it first. His face gave away nothing, then he placed it in front of me. I read the opening line. On the afternoon of March 12, Emma Hayes Reed, initiated a verbal confrontation with Vanessa Cole due to personal marital distress. I kept reading. I regret raising my voice and causing fear to Ms. Cole, who was in a delicate medical condition. My cheek warmed where she had struck me. I understand Dr. Daniel Reed acted only to protect a vulnerable expectant mother from further distress. At the bottom, there was a blank line for my signature. For a moment, the whole room blurred with the simplicity of it. They did not only want me to apologize, they wanted me to help them erase myself. Adrian said nothing. He knew this choice had to be mine. I placed the paper on the table. No. Daniel closed his eyes. Emma, no. I repeated. Vanessa's hand moved to her stomach. You do not care what stress does to a pregnancy. The old Emma would have flinched. She would have tried to prove compassion. She would have said she did care too much about everyone always. This Emma folded her hands. If your pregnancy is relevant to a legal statement, your attorney can provide verified medical documentation through proper channels. Vanessa's lips parted. Daniel snapped. Do not speak to her like she is on trial. She is accusing me of endangering a pregnancy. I said. That accusation can be proven or withdrawn. Grace leaned forward. How can you be so cold? I looked at her. Practice. Daniel stared at me as if he did not recognize me. Good. Catherine shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps we can adjust the language. Adrian finally spoke. Let us be clear. My client will not sign any statement admitting to conduct she did not commit. She will not apologize for being assaulted. She will not participate in protecting Dr. Reed's reputation at the expense of her own medical truth. The legal man said. We are not suggesting. You are, Adrian said. Poorly. Daniel's face darkened. You are enjoying humiliating me. I turned to him then. Do you know what I was doing while you were writing this? He did not answer. I was at a follow-up appointment confirming that the pregnancy I lost did not require surgery. The room stopped. Daniel's eyes went blank. Grace's hand flew to her mouth, but I knew her well enough to see calculation arrive right after shock. Vanessa went still. Catherine looked down at the papers in front of her, then at me. Ms. Hayes, I am sorry. Daniel whispered. Pregnancy. I almost hated myself for saying it here, not because he deserved privacy, but because I did. My grief deserved a room without fluorescent lights and legal folders. But he had dragged me into this table, so the truth sat with us. Yes, I said, I came to this hospital because I was bleeding. You were here with her. She hit me. You told me to apologize. Daniel's face crumpled for half a second. Then he looked at Vanessa. That was the moment I knew some part of him had suspected her story did not deserve blind faith. Not enough to protect me, just enough to protect himself. Now Vanessa spoke first. I did not know. No, I said, you did not care. Daniel's voice was rough. Emma, why did you not tell me? I stared at him. The question was so absurd, so cruel in its self-pity that Adrian leaned back as if giving me space to decide how much damage I wanted to do. I tried. I said, 9 missed calls, 4 messages, 1 voicemail. Daniel looked down. Noah had pulled the call logs already. Adrian slid a copy across the table. Daniel did not touch it. Catherine did. The legal man whispered something to her. The room was changing shape. 5 minutes earlier, I had been the unstable wife. Now I was a patient who had suffered a pregnancy loss and a documented assault inside their facility while a staff physician pressured her to sign a false statement. Hospitals understand risk. Daniel understood it too late. This meeting is over, Catherine said. Vanessa stood. Wait, I came here for protection. Adrian picked up the statement and placed it in his folder. Thank you for providing this. Daniel's head snapped up. You cannot take that. You gave it to us, Adrian said, voluntarily. The legal man looked pained. I stood carefully, my body still punished sudden movement. Daniel rose too. Emma, please. I did not know. I turned on him. You keep saying that like ignorance is innocence. His eyes reddened. I would have come. No, I said. You would have chosen whatever made you feel least guilty. That has always been your talent. Vanessa began to cry, real tears now, maybe from fear. Grace finally spoke. Emma, this is terrible. We can handle it as a family. I looked at her, almost curious. Whose family? Her face tightened. There it was again, the line I had finally stopped crossing for people who would not cross it for me. Outside the office, Maya waited near the hallway with a paper cup of coffee. She was not drinking. She looked nervous but determined. Ms. Hayes, she said. Daniel stiffened behind me. Maya held out an envelope. My statement. I made a copy for hospital administration. But I wanted you to have one too. It says exactly what I saw. I took it with both hands. Thank you. Her eyes flicked toward Daniel, then back to me. No one should have asked you to apologize. My throat tightened. Daniel heard it. That mattered, not because I wanted his guilt, because truth sounds different when strangers are brave enough to say it. Adrian tucked the envelope into his briefcase. Vanessa's voice rose behind us. Daniel, are you just going to stand there? He did, for the first time since the hospital hallway. Daniel did not move toward her, but he did not move toward me either. He stood between us, empty-handed, finally understanding that being chosen by two women was not power if one of them had stopped waiting. The first time I saw Vanessa's name in Daniel's medical file, I laughed. Not because it was funny, because there is a kind of pain so precise the body mistakes it for comedy. I was sitting in Adrian's office with a stack of legally obtained documents from the hospital's internal review. Adrian had requested only what involved me, Daniel's conduct toward me, and the incident report. The hospital, now eager not to appear obstructive, had provided more than Daniel expected. There it was on a photocopied administrative form connected to a donor event Daniel had supervised 3 months earlier. Emergency contact, Vanessa Cole, relationship partner. I had been at home that night, writing a speech Daniel later delivered as his own. Noah leaned over my shoulder and whistled. That is bold. Miles took the page, read it and set it down with controlled disgust. He listed her inside the hospital system. Adrian made a note. This supports duration and public representation. Public representation. I repeated, what a clean phrase for humiliation. A second form showed Vanessa listed as Daniel's guest for a private medical foundation retreat. A third email showed Daniel asking administrative staff to extend spousal accommodation to Vanessa for an event in Chicago. Spousal. I stared at the word until the letters stopped making sense. Adrian said, Emma, do you need a break? No. Keep going. He hesitated. I looked at him. Do not protect me from information that protects me. That seemed to hurt him, but he nodded. There were more, a reimbursement claim for Vanessa's hotel room. A donor dinner where she was seated beside Daniel instead of me. A message from Daniel to the hospital events coordinator. Emma will not attend. Please put Vanessa at my table. The date of that message was my birthday. I remembered that night. Daniel had told me he was stuck in surgery. I had eaten grocery store cake alone while Grace called to remind me to send her blood pressure medication refill. Noah swore under his breath. I touched the printed email. Can this be used? Yes, Adrian said. It shows. The affair was not brief or accidental. It shows he represented her as a partner in professional spaces while benefiting from your financial support and public role. Miles looked at another document. There is also a draft incident statement Daniel submitted before the meeting. Adrian took it. I knew by his expression it was bad. Read it. I said he did. Dr. Daniel Reed reported that his wife Emma Reed arrived emotionally distressed and confronted Ms. Vanessa Cole, who is currently pregnant. Dr. Reed attempted to calm his wife and prevent escalation. My stomach turned. Arrived emotionally distressed, confronted, currently pregnant. Every lie wore a professional coat. He submitted this before asking me to sign the apology. I asked. Yes, Adrian said. And after Dr. Patel's time-stamped exam, Miles tapped the desk, which means he knew you were a patient in that department when he described you as arriving to confront Vanessa. Did he know why? Noah asked. Miles's silence answered. Maybe Daniel had not known about the pregnancy loss, but he knew enough. He knew I had been in the emergency department, he knew I had a wristband, he knew I held a medical folder. He chose not to ask because the answer would have complicated his story. That was Daniel's specialty. Avoid the truth long enough to claim ignorance later. My phone buzzed, a message from Daniel. Can we meet tonight? Just us. I need to understand. I stared at it. For years those words would have pulled me back. I need to understand, as if he were the wounded one. As if my job were to translate my pain into a form gentle enough for him to accept. I typed back, all communication through Adrian. Daniel replied almost instantly. Do not hide behind your brothers. I looked at the three men surrounding the table, all of them trying not to smother me with help. Then I typed, I am not hiding, I am done standing alone for your convenience. No response. Good. That afternoon I met Maya at a coffee shop 2 blocks from the hospital. Adrian waited outside in his car. Because Maya had asked not to be overwhelmed by lawyers, she arrived in jeans and a navy jacket, looking younger without her hospital badge. I am nervous, she admitted as she sat. I know, I need the job, I know that too. She wrapped both hands around her coffee. I saw her hit you. I saw Dr. Reed put himself between you and her. I heard him tell you to apologize. I also saw you holding your discharge folder before the slap. You were not there chasing them. I swallowed. Thank you. Maya looked down. There is something else. I waited. Ms. Cole was not checked into the emergency department for pregnancy complications that day. My pulse changed. I cannot give you private information, she said quickly. I am not, but I can tell you what I personally observed as a witness. She was in a visitor area before the incident. She was not in a hospital gown. She was not being monitored. She asked me where Dr. Reed was and then walked toward your exam hallway. I went very still. She came looking for him. Maya nodded, and when she saw you, she smiled before she started crying. A cold line moved through me, not jealousy, not rage, recognition. Vanessa had not lost control. She had created a scene. She wanted witnesses. I said, I think she wanted the right witnesses. Maya said, but she did not know about the camera angle. I almost smiled. The universe rarely offers justice, sometimes it offers architecture. Will you say that in a formal statement? I asked. Yes, she took a shaky breath, but I need protection if the hospital retaliates. My attorney can help with that, I said, and I will not let you be punished for telling the truth. She gave me a small sad smile. You sound very certain. I am practicing. When I returned to Adrian's office, Daniel was waiting outside. He stood near the elevator, coat open, tie loose, looking less like the brilliant surgeon everyone admired and more like a man who had not slept. Adrian was not there. Noah and Miles were upstairs reviewing files. For once, Daniel had found me alone. His eyes moved over me with a hunger that might have been regret. Emma, he said. I stopped 10 feet away. Do not come closer. He obeyed. That surprised both of us. I did not know about the baby, he said. I looked at him for a long moment. No, I said, you did not know about our baby. He flinched. Good. Let pronouns do some work. I would have been there, he said. You were there. His face tightened. You were in the same hospital. I continued. Close enough to hear Vanessa lie, close enough to see my face after she hit me, close enough to ask why I had a wristband. You did not ask. I was overwhelmed. So was I. His eyes filled, but tears from Daniel had always been dangerous. They invited me to comfort the man who caused them. I did not move. He whispered, I am sorry. There it was, 5 years of waiting, and when the apology finally came, it sounded too small to carry anything. For what? I asked. He looked confused. Everything. No, pick something. Emma, pick one thing. Daniel, the affair, the hospital, the slap, the fake statement, the house, the money, my birthday dinner with Vanessa, my mother's trust. Which thing are you sorry for right now? His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Because remorse is easy when it is general. Accountability requires choosing a wound and standing inside it. I walked toward the elevator. He reached for me, then remembered and stopped himself. Vanessa is not what you think, he said. I turned back. No, she is exactly what I think. You are the one I misread. The elevator opened. Before I stepped inside, Daniel said, "I never stopped loving you." I looked at him one last time. "You stopped respecting me. Love without respect is just appetite." The doors closed on his face. For the first time since the hospital, I did not cry afterward. The hospital charity gala had always been Daniel's favorite night of the year. He loved the lighting, the donors, the applause, the way people said his name as if it belonged on buildings. He loved the careful performance of generosity. He loved standing at a podium in a tuxedo, speaking about compassion while letting someone else remember the names of nurses, patients, volunteers, and grieving families. For years, that someone had been me. I knew where the donors preferred to sit. I knew which widow gave anonymously every December because her husband died in Daniel's surgical wing. I knew which board member hated seafood and which journalist needed access without feeling managed. I knew the speech cadence Daniel used when he wanted tears by. Paragraph 3. This year my invitation had not come from Daniel, it came from the foundation. "Dear Ms. Hayes, we would be honored by your attendance as a legacy donor and advisory contributor. Ms. Hayes." I wore emerald green, not black, not mourning. Green had been my mother's color. She used to say it looked like things surviving winter. Adrian offered to escort me. I declined. Miles offered to wait nearby. I declined that too. Noah said he could hack the event lighting if needed, and I told him prison orange would not suit him. I walked in alone. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and crystal glasses. A string quartet played near the entrance. Photographers gathered by the sponsor wall. Daniel saw me before Vanessa did. He stood across the room in a black tuxedo, Vanessa on his arm in silver. For one brief second, his face softened with something like memory, then Vanessa followed his gaze and tightened her grip. I smiled, not at them, at the room, let them wonder. People noticed me quickly, not because I was loud, but because absence creates its own rumor. I had not attended a hospital event since the incident. Half the room knew something, the other half wanted to. Catherine Lowe approached first, careful and polite. "Ms. Hayes, I am glad you came. Thank you for inviting me." Her smile held nerves. "The board values your family's continued commitment to patient advocacy. My family values accountability." The smile faltered. "Of course." Daniel reached us then. "Emma," he said, "can we speak privately?" "No." Vanessa gave a soft laugh. Still hiding behind public scenes, I looked at her, still creating them. Her smile died. Daniel glanced around. "Not tonight. That is what you said at the hospital. It was not convenient for you then either." A photographer nearby lifted his camera. Daniel noticed and instantly changed his face into concern. "Emma, you have been through a lot," he said gently. "No one wants to hurt you." I nearly admired the speed. Vanessa leaned against him. "We only want peace." "Peace," I said, "is not the same as silence." Before Daniel could answer, the event coordinator hurried over. "Ms. Hayes, we are ready for you backstage." Vanessa blinked. "Ready for what?" The coordinator looked confused. "The donor recognition segment." Daniel's face went blank. He had not known. That was Catherine's doing, I suspected. Or maybe the board had finally read the room and decided Daniel was no longer the safest face for compassion. I walked backstage. From behind the curtain I watched Daniel take his place at the front table with Vanessa beside him. She whispered urgently. He shook his head. Grace sat stiffly 2 seats away, pearls gleaming like armor. The foundation chair began with polished remarks about healing and trust. Then Daniel was introduced. He walked to the podium, handsome and composed. The room applauded. He accepted it like forgiveness. His speech was almost the same one I wrote for him 2 years ago. Almost. He changed the middle. "This year has reminded me that families take many forms," he said. "Sometimes the future arrives in unexpected ways. I am grateful for the woman standing with me as I prepare for that future." The room murmured. Vanessa lowered her eyes at the front table, one hand placed deliberately on her stomach. Daniel smiled toward her. He had not said wife, he was too smart for that. But everyone understood what he wanted them to understand. The foundation chair returned to the podium after polite applause that sounded thinner than Daniel expected. "And now," she said, "we are honored to recognize a woman whose quiet contributions have shaped patient support programs across this hospital for years. Many of you know her work even if you have not known her name. Please welcome Emma Hayes." The room shifted. Daniel turned sharply. Vanessa's hand dropped from her stomach. I walked onto the stage. The lights were warm but my hands were cold. I looked out at the donors, doctors, administrators, reporters, and board members. I saw Grace gripping her wineglass. I saw Daniel standing halfway between his table and the stage. Trapped by etiquette, I had given speeches before, but always for him. This one was mine. "Thank you," I said. For years I believed support meant staying invisible. I thought if the work helped patients, it did not matter whose name was attached. A few people nodded. That belief came from my mother, Elise Hayes, who created the first patient emergency fund this hospital ever accepted from our family. The older donors remembered her. I saw faces soften. My mother believed compassion without accountability becomes vanity. She believed institutions must protect vulnerable people, not just the reputations of powerful ones. Daniel's face tightened. Good. Recent events have reminded me that patient dignity is not an abstract value. It is not a slogan for a brochure. It is what matters when someone is frightened, injured, or alone in a hospital hallway. The room went silent. Vanessa stared at the tablecloth. Daniel's eyes locked on mine. I did not say his name. I did not need to. Effective. Immediately, the Hayes Patient Advocacy Fund will pause all private contributions to programs under direct supervision of Dr. Daniel Reed, pending an independent review of patient safety, incident reporting, and donor fund allocation. A sharp sound moved through the room. Daniel stepped forward. "Emma." The microphone caught it. Every head turned. I continued. "These funds will be redirected temporarily to independent patient support services, including legal guidance for patients involved in disputed hospital incidents." Catherine Lowe closed her eyes for a second. The foundation chair looked like she might faint. I held the podium with both hands. "This is not punishment, this is stewardship. Money meant to protect vulnerable people should never be used to protect powerful people from the truth." Applause did not come immediately. First came silence, then one person clapped, an older woman at table 4, the widow whose husband died in Daniel's wing, then another, then more. Not thunderous, not cinematic. Real applause is messier than revenge fantasies. Some people clapped because they agreed, some because they feared being seen not clapping, some because they loved scandal. It did not matter. Daniel's face had gone pale. Vanessa stood and pushed back her chair, but no one rushed to help her. That was the first time I saw panic in her eyes. After the speech, I stepped down from the stage and walked toward the exit. Daniel caught up near the coat check. "What the hell was that?" he whispered. "A boundary with a microphone. You just damaged my program." "No, I removed my funding from your control. You humiliated me in front of the board." I turned to him. "You introduced your mistress as your future in front of donors whose thank you notes I wrote." His face flushed. "I did not say that. You implied it." "You are excellent at implying just enough to deny later." Vanessa appeared behind him, shaking. "You cannot do this. Stress can hurt the baby." I looked at her stomach again. This time she stepped back. "Then bring real medical records to your attorney," I said. Her expression hardened. "You bitter Baron." Daniel caught her arm. "Vanessa." Too late. The word hung there. Baron. A few people nearby heard it. I saw Catherine Lowe turn. I smiled without warmth. "Careful. That insult has a medical history you do not want entered into discovery." Vanessa's face drained of color. Daniel looked at me. "Emma, please." "No," I said. "That word is finished between us two." I took my coat from the attendant and walked out into the cold night. For once, no one followed. Divorce mediation took place in a room with beige walls and no windows. It felt appropriate. Daniel sat across from me with his attorney, a square-jawed man named Richard Vale who clearly wished his client had chosen a less documented affair. Vanessa was not supposed to attend. She came anyway and sat in the hallway where everyone could see her through the glass panel, one hand on her stomach, the other scrolling her phone. Grace sat beside Daniel despite Adrian's objection, claiming she was there for emotional support. I almost admired the honesty. Daniel had always needed women to manage the consequences of his choices. Adrian placed our files on the table. Noah's financial summary was in one folder. The hospital incident documentation was in another. My medical records were sealed in a third, marked confidential. I had slept badly the night before, not because I feared the meeting, because I knew Daniel would learn the dates. Today, not just that I had been pregnant, that I had likely been pregnant while he was already with Vanessa, that while he was telling another woman she was his future, My body had been carrying the last fragile evidence of our past. I hated giving him that knowledge, but Adrian was right. Daniel's legal position depended on portraying me as jealous, unstable, and aggressive. My medical reality destroyed that narrative. Richard began with the confidence of a man paid to sound clean. Dr. Reed regrets the emotional complexity of recent events. He is prepared to offer a generous settlement to avoid unnecessary conflict. Adrian did not blink. Define generous. Richard slid a packet across. Adrian read one page and laughed softly. Daniel's jaw tightened. Adrian pushed it back. No, Richard frowned. Your client would retain the marital residence temporarily with eventual sale under standard terms. Dr. Reed would assume certain shared debts in exchange. Both parties sign mutual non-disparagement, withdraw hospital complaints, and agree not to pursue reimbursement related to voluntary marital support. I looked at Daniel. You want me to give up the complaint? He met my eyes. I want us to stop bleeding in public. The word bleeding landed badly. Adrian's voice cooled. My client will not withdraw a truthful complaint involving assault and coercion. Richard adjusted his tie. Ms. Cole is prepared to file her own claim. She alleges emotional distress, verbal threats, and fear for her pregnancy caused by Ms. Hayes. Adrian leaned back, then produced the pregnancy documentation. Daniel looked toward the hallway. Vanessa looked up from her phone as if she sensed the room turning toward her. Richard opened another folder. We have an ultrasound image and a letter from a women's clinic. Adrian accepted them. He read the letter, then he passed it to me. It looked real at first glance. Clinic header, signature, date, estimated gestational age, but Noah had taught me to look at details. The letter was dated 2 days before the hospital incident. The ultrasound image had no full patient identifier visible, only Vanessa's first name. The clinic was in another state. Adrian asked, "Do you have original records subpoena ready from this clinic?" Richard frowned. "We can obtain them." "Do that." Daniel's face tightened. "Why are you attacking her pregnancy?" "I am attacking an accusation built on it," Adrian said. Grace snapped. "She is carrying my grandchild." I looked at her. "Then you should want the truth secure." She recoiled as if I had slapped her. Daniel spoke quietly. "Emma." "Enough." I turned to him. "That sentence has lost all power." Adrian opened the sealed folder. My heart began to hammer. Since Dr. Reed's counsel has introduced Ms. Cole's alleged pregnancy as a basis for claims against my client, we are introducing Ms. Hayes' medical timeline as relevant to the incident and to Dr. Reed's conduct. Daniel looked confused, then afraid. Adrian slid copies to Richard first, then to Daniel. Daniel did not touch them immediately. Richard did. His face changed as he read. Daniel finally picked up the top page. I watched him read Dr. Patel's report. Positive pregnancy test, estimated gestational age, approximately 8 weeks. Patient reports bleeding since early morning. Diagnosis consistent with early pregnancy loss. Facial bruising documented after hallway incident. Daniel's hands stopped moving. The room went silent except for the hum of the overhead light. He read it again, then again. "Emma," he whispered. I looked down at my own hands. I had expected satisfaction. I had imagined this moment during sleepless hours. Daniel finally knowing, finally hurting, finally understanding what his neglect cost. But there was no pleasure in watching him realize our child had existed, only a cold, clean grief. Grace reached for the paper. "What is this?" Daniel did not let go. "Daniel," she said. He looked at me with naked shock. "You were pregnant?" "Yes." "When?" I laughed once quietly. That is usually how dates work. His face crumpled. "Was it mine?" Noah was not in the room, which was fortunate. Adrian's voice cut like glass. "Do not ask my client that again." Daniel seemed to hear himself then. Horror crossed his face. "I did not mean." "You did," I said. His eyes filled. "Emma, I did not know." "You have said that already." "I would have come." "You were there." He shook his head. "No, I mean I would have been there for you. You were standing 5 feet away telling me to apologize to the woman who hit me." The words landed. Everyone felt them. Even Richard stopped pretending to. "Right," Grace whispered. "Emma, why did you not tell us?" I turned to her slowly. "When before or after you said I should accept Vanessa's baby to prove what kind of woman I was?" Color drained from her face. Daniel pressed both hands against the table. "I need a minute." "No," I said. He looked up. "You do not get a minute from me. You can have one from your lawyer." Adrian placed another document on the table. Now, regarding settlement, Ms. Hayes requests reimbursement of separate funds used for Reed. Family obligations, division of marital assets consistent with the prenup, preservation of all hospital evidence, and a written acknowledgement that she did not assault Ms. Cole. Richard cleared his throat. We need time to review. Take it, Adrian said. But understand this, if Ms. Cole files a pregnancy-based claim, we will seek full verification through discovery. If Dr. Reed continues to characterize my client as unstable, we will release appropriate evidence in legal proceedings. Daniel was still looking at me. Release. I met his eyes. I have protected you enough. The door opened suddenly. Vanessa stepped in. What is taking so long? No one answered. She looked at Daniel's face, then at the papers. Something in her expression sharpened with fear. What did she say? Daniel stood slowly. Emma was pregnant. Vanessa's lips parted. Grace began to cry, but it sounded more like panic than sorrow. Vanessa recovered first. That is convenient. Daniel turned to her. The room changed for the first time. He looked at Vanessa not as a woman to protect, but as a person who had said the wrong thing near evidence. What did you just say? He asked. Vanessa lifted her chin. I said it is convenient. She brings this up now when she wants money and attention. I stood. Adrian rose with me. Daniel looked between us. Dazed, I gathered my copy of the report and placed it back in the folder. You lost the right to grieve with me. His face twisted. I did not even know there was something to grieve. He whispered. No. I said, because knowing would have required you to look away from her. Vanessa made a sharp sound. Daniel. He did not answer. I walked out before any of them could turn my loss into a debate. In the hallway, Noah was waiting with Miles. One look at my face and both moved toward me. I lifted a hand. Do not hug me yet. They stopped. I breathed once, twice, then I said, now. Miles reached me first. For a moment, I let myself break where it was safe. The hospital ethics hearing began at 9 in the morning. By 8:50, Daniel looked like a man trying to stand inside a collapsing house and still pretend the roof was decorative. He wore a navy suit instead of his white coat. Smart choice. The coat had become part of the story now, the symbol of authority he used in a hallway against his own wife. Vanessa sat 3 seats away from him, not beside him. Smarter choice or cowardly. Sometimes survival borrows the shape of wisdom. I sat with Adrian. Miles had recused himself from any board involvement related to the incident because of our family relationship, but he was allowed to attend as my support person. Noah waited outside with coffee and threats he promised not to act on. Catherine Lowe sat at one end of the table. 2 board members, an outside ethics consultant, and hospital counsel sat along the side. Maya was scheduled as a witness. Dr. Patel had submitted her documentation. The hearing was not public, but it was official. That mattered more. Official lies leave records, official truths do too. Catherine began by summarizing the issue. Her voice was calm, but I saw the strain around her mouth. On March 12, an incident occurred in the East Corridor outside Emergency Examination Room 4. The incident involved Ms. Emma Hayes, Dr. Daniel Reed, and Ms. Vanessa Cole. Questions have been raised regarding physical contact, patient treatment, staff conduct, incident reporting, and potential coercion of a patient. Patient, again that word, it anchored me. Daniel's attorney objected to the word coercion. Hospital counsel noted the objection. The ethics consultant asked to proceed. Then they played the video. I had not seen it before. Adrian had warned me, you do not have to watch. But I did. The camera angle was high and slightly distant. There was no sound. Somehow that made it worse. I watched myself enter the corridor slowly, one hand against my abdomen, a folded paper in the other. Vanessa appeared from the opposite side. She approached first. Her body language was not frightened, it was sharp. Deliberate. She pointed at me. I said something. She stepped closer, then she slapped me. My head turned with the force of it. In the hearing room, Miles inhaled once through his nose. Daniel stared at the screen. The video continued. Daniel moved between us, but not to check on me, to shield Vanessa. His hand went to her shoulder. I stood still, holding my cheek. The old me on the screen looked so alone that I almost reached for her. Then the examination room door opened. Adrian stepped out. Miles, Noah, even without sound, the room understood the shift. Vanessa stepped back. Daniel's posture changed, mine did too. The video stopped. No one spoke immediately. Then the ethics consultant said, Ms. Cole, your written statement says Ms. Hayes lunged at you before you struck her. Vanessa's voice was tight. The angle does not show her face, it shows her feet, the consultant said. She does not move toward you. Vanessa looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at the table. The consultant turned to him. Dr. Reed, your written incident summary stated that you attempted to calm your wife after she initiated a confrontation. This footage does not support that. Daniel swallowed. I was under emotional stress. The words tasted familiar. He was borrowing my supposed instability and wearing it as mitigation. Adrian did not speak. He did not need to. Catherine played the audio next. My recording. This time the room had sound. Vanessa crying. Daniel's voice, my own, quiet and controlled. You have already made enough of a scene. She is pregnant. You need to apologize before this becomes worse. The recording ended. One of the board members, a woman in her 60s with silver hair, looked at Daniel with open disappointment. Dr. Reed, were you aware Ms. Hayes was an emergency department patient at the time? Daniel closed his eyes briefly. I knew she had been seen. Did you know why? No. Did you ask? A silence. No. The answer sat there, ugly and simple. Dr. Patel's written statement came next. She confirmed my admission time, medical condition, pregnancy loss, and injury documentation. She wrote professionally and without drama that additional emotional stress was medically inadvisable. Then Maya came in. She looked nervous, but when she spoke her voice held. I saw Ms. Cole strike Ms. Hayes. I did not see Ms. Hayes touch her. I heard Dr. Reed tell Ms. Hayes to apologize. I also saw Ms. Hayes holding her medical paperwork before the incident. She was not acting aggressively. Daniel looked at Maya. You misunderstood. Maya's face flushed, but she did not look away. No, doctor, I did not. Something in me loosened, not healed, just loosened. Vanessa's attorney tried to redirect attention to her alleged pregnancy and distress. Hospital counsel asked for verified medical documentation. That was when Vanessa's story began to fall apart in real time. The clinic letter she had provided could not be authenticated during preliminary review. The signature did not match the provider listed. The ultrasound image appeared in an online stock database used for educational samples. The date metadata had been altered. Vanessa's attorney looked like he wanted to disappear into the carpet. Daniel turned slowly toward her. Vanessa, he said. She lifted her chin. I gave you what you wanted. The room froze. Daniel whispered. What? Her eyes filled, but this time the tears were furious. You wanted a reason to leave her without looking like the villain. You wanted your mother to stop asking why you were throwing away a useful wife. You wanted donors to see a future, not an affair. I gave you one. Grace made a sound behind him. She had insisted on attending as family support and now looked as if she might collapse. Daniel's face had gone gray. You told me you were pregnant, he said. You believed me because it helped you. There are moments when truth does not arrive like lightning, it arrives like a bill, itemized, due, impossible to ignore. Daniel looked at me then. I saw the exact instant he understood that Vanessa's lie did not absolve him, it exposed him. He had chosen her story because it was convenient. He had repeated it because it made his betrayal look noble. He had used a fake child to silence the woman losing his real one. His eyes filled. I felt nothing warm. Only the clean click of a lock closing. Catherine requested a recess. The board members stood. Vanessa's attorney grabbed her arm and whispered harshly. Grace began crying openly. Daniel came toward me. Adrian stepped in front of him. Daniel stopped. Please, I need to talk to her. No, Adrian said. Daniel looked over his shoulder at me. Emma. I stood. Adrian turned slightly. You do not have to. I know. I walked around him but kept distance between Daniel and me. Daniel's face was wrecked. I had once loved that face enough to excuse everything it did not say. I believed her, he said. Yes, I do not know why. I do. He flinched. You believed her because her lie gave you permission to be selfish and still feel honorable. His mouth trembled. I loved you. No, you loved being forgiven by me. That is not fair. Neither was the hallway. He looked down. I continued, quieter now. Neither was my birthday dinner, neither was the money, neither was putting her name where mine belonged, neither was asking me to sign a lie after I lost our baby. His eyes closed as if the words physically hurt. Good. Pain is information. He had ignored mine long enough. I will never forgive myself, he said. That is between you and yourself. I want to make it right. I shook my head. You can make statements, you can sign papers, you can tell the truth, but you cannot make it right. The hallway outside the hearing room was full of people pretending not to watch, staff, attorneys, administrators. The audience Daniel had always feared had finally arrived. He lowered his voice. Is there any part of you that still loves me? There it was, the question that centered him even in my grief. I looked at him and answered honestly, yes. Hope flashed in his eyes. I killed it before it could stand, but I love the woman who survived you more. He stared at me as if I had struck him. Maybe I had, with truth. By the time we reached the final divorce conference, Daniel had lost weight, his cheeks were hollow, his suit hung too sharply on his shoulders. The hospital had placed him on administrative leave pending the outcome of the ethics review. His research program was under audit, donors had paused commitments. Vanessa had disappeared from public view after her attorney withdrew the pregnancy-based claim and advised her to stop contacting everyone. Grace called me 14 times in 1 week. I blocked her after the third voicemail that began with "After all we have been through as family." Family had become the word people used when contracts no longer favored them. The courthouse conference room was colder than the mediation office. I wore navy, brought my own pen, and sat across from Daniel without shaking. Adrian sat beside me. Daniel had Richard Vale. Grace was not allowed in the room. That alone felt like progress. Richard began with revised terms. They were much closer to reality now. Sale of the marital house, reimbursement of documented separate funds used for Reed family debts and private care obligations, Daniel to assume all undisclosed debts connected to his family, mutual division of marital assets under the prenup, no claim by Daniel against the Hayes Trust, written statement acknowledging I did not assault Vanessa Cole, Daniel's agreement not to contact me directly except through counsel for 1 year. I read every line, not because I did not trust Adrian, because this was my life. Daniel watched me the entire time. When I reached the last page he said, "Can we have 5 minutes?" "No," Adrian said. I touched Adrian's sleeve. "It is fine." He looked at me. "Emma." I said, "It is fine." He leaned back, unhappy but silent. Daniel's attorney remained, so did mine. There would be no private corners, no old habits. Daniel folded his hands on the table. I signed the acknowledgement. He said, "I saw. I also gave the hospital a corrected statement." "I know, and I told my mother to stop calling you." "That explains the silence." He swallowed for a moment. I saw the Daniel I married, not innocent, never that again, but human. A man sitting among the wreckage of his own choices, finally unable to outsource the mess. "I am sorry for asking if the baby was mine," he said. The room went very still. Richard looked pained. Adrian looked ready to object to his existence. I held Daniel's gaze. "That was the moment I stopped wondering whether you understood love," I said. His eyes reddened. "I hated myself as soon as I said it." "You still said it." "Yes." That was new. No defense, no explanation. Too late, but new. He continued, "I have been trying to find the first thing I did wrong, not the affair before that. I keep thinking if I can find the first crack, I can understand how I became someone who hurt you that way. And," he gave a broken laugh, "I think it was when I realized you would forgive me faster than I would apologize." The sentence landed softly, accurately. I looked down at the agreement. For years I had called my forgiveness love because it sounded kinder than fear. Fear of conflict, fear of being difficult, fear that if I asked for more I would discover there was no more to receive. Daniel said, "Vanessa lied." "Yes. But I let her lie become useful." "Yes, I made you small." I looked up. He forced himself to keep speaking. "I let you pay bills and write speeches and protect my mother and carry my ambition, and then I resented you because some part of me knew I had not earned all of it." There it was, the truth beneath the affair. Vanessa had not stolen my marriage. She had found the rot and decorated it. Daniel wiped his face quickly, embarrassed by tears even now. "I do not expect forgiveness," he said. "Good." A faint, wounded smile crossed his mouth. "You always were efficient." I did not smile back. He looked at the document. "I will sign." "Then sign." His hand shook when he took the pen. I watched him write Daniel Andrew Reed at the bottom of the final page. There was no thunder, no music, no dramatic collapse, just ink. My turn came. I signed Emma Elise Hayes, no Reed. The absence felt like breath. Richard gathered his copies. Adrian checked signatures. The court clerk entered briefly to confirm filing details. Practical things happened because endings are built from practical things. Daniel remained seated after everyone else stood. Emma, he said. I paused. Do you remember the apartment with the broken heater? I did, of course I did. Our first winter, 2 space heaters, soup from a can. Daniel studying for boards with his feet tucked under my legs because the floor was freezing. He had looked up at me then and said, "One day I will give you a life where you never have to worry." I had believed him. The tragedy was not that he failed to give me that life. It was that I gave it to him instead and he called it his. I remember. I said, I was not lying then. I know. His face twisted. Does that make it worse? Yes. He nodded like he deserved that. I picked up my coat at the door. He said, if I become better someday. No, he stopped. I turned around fully because this part deserved clarity. If you become better, then be better for the patients who trust you, for the staff you pressured, for the next woman you might be tempted to use as a mirror. Be better because it is right. Do not make my return the prize. He stared at me. I am not a reward for your character development, Daniel. The words settled between us like the final page of a book neither of us could unread. I walked out in the hallway. Grace was waiting despite being told not to come. Her pearls were gone. Her face looked older, smaller. Emma, she said, please. I almost kept walking, then I stopped, not because she deserved it, because I wanted to know whether saying no to her face would feel different now. She clasped her hands. I was wrong. Yes, I was afraid. Daniel's father left so much debt. Daniel was finally respected. Vanessa said the baby would bring joy back into the family. I did not want scandal. So you chose scandal with better lighting. Her mouth trembled. I should have protected you. Yes, I miss you. That hurt more than I expected because there had been good days, grocery runs after her surgery, old movies, the way she cried when my mother's bracelet broke and helped me find every bead. People are rarely monsters all the way through. That is why leaving them takes so long. I miss who I thought you were, I said. She began to cry. Is there nothing I can do? Yes, I said. Pay your own bills, tell the truth when people ask why I left, and never call me your daughter again. She pressed a hand to her mouth. I walked past her, outside the courthouse. My brothers waited near the curb. Noah held up a coffee. Divorce latte. Miles elbowed him. Adrian looked at my face and asked only, done. I took the coffee. Done. Noah opened the car door with exaggerated ceremony. Ms. Hayes. For the first time in months I laughed. It came out rusty, but it was mine. 6 months later I learned that doors sound different when you close them without fear. The new apartment was smaller than the house I had shared with Daniel. It had old brick walls, wide windows, and a kitchen that caught morning light like it had been waiting for me. The floors creaked. The elevator was unreliable. The neighbor upstairs played jazz on Sundays. I loved all of it. Nothing in the apartment belonged to a life I had to explain. The first week, I slept badly because no one needed me. There were no late night calls from Grace about prescriptions, no donor speech drafts, no Daniel walking in at midnight expecting food, silence, and forgiveness, no strange perfume in the hallway. Freedom was quiet enough to feel like emptiness at first. Then I learned to fill it. I bought lemons and lavender soap. I hung my mother's photograph in the living room. I unpacked books Daniel had once called depressing because they were about women who survived things. I replaced the wedding photo space with a framed copy of the first grant approval for the Elise Hayes Patient Rights Fund. That fund became my work. Not because revenge needed a charity ending. Because I knew too well how institutions could make a woman doubt her own injury if the man hurting her had the better title. We offered legal referrals, patient advocates, emergency transportation, and counseling support for people navigating disputed medical incidents. We started small. Then the widow from table 4 at the gala doubled her donation. Then 2 nurses anonymously connected us with patients who needed help. Then Catherine Lowe called, stiff and formal, to ask whether the hospital could discuss a partnership under independent oversight. I said yes, with conditions. I had become very fond of conditions. Daniel's hearing ended with a suspension, mandatory ethics review, loss of leadership over the donor-funded program, and a formal reprimand in his professional file. He did not lose his license. Some people thought that was unfair. Maybe it was, but consequences are not always as dramatic as stories want them to be. He lost the version of himself people applauded without question. For Daniel, that was no small thing. Vanessa faced a civil claim from me for defamation and intentional infliction related to the false assault narrative. The forged pregnancy documents triggered a separate investigation when the clinic named in her letter denied involvement. She settled before trial, issued a written retraction, and vanished from the hospital's donor circles. Noah said people like Vanessa never vanish, they rebrand. He was probably right. Grace moved into a smaller apartment after the house sold. She sent one letter through Adrian. I did not read it for 2 weeks. When I finally opened it, there were only 4 sentences. I failed you. You owed us nothing. I am sorry I made your pain inconvenient. I will not contact you again. I folded it and placed it in a box. Not forgiveness, not punishment. Storage. The final house sale closed on a rainy Thursday. Adrian handled the documents. Noah verified the transfer. Miles brought lunch because he believed all emotional milestones required sandwiches. We gathered in my new kitchen around a table that was too small for 3 grown men and 1 woman pretending not to cry. Noah lifted his soda. To legal paperwork, clean exits, and never dating doctors again. Miles groaned. I am a doctor. Exactly, Noah said. We know too much. Adrian raised his coffee. To Emma. I shook my head. Do not make a toast. Too late, Miles said. Adrian continued anyway. To the woman who opened the door when she needed help and closed it when she was ready. That one got me. I looked away toward the window. Rain moved down the glass in thin silver lines. Somewhere below, a car horn sounded. Life continued with no regard for symbolism, which made the moment better. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a second, my body remembered old fear. Then I answered. Ms. Hayes. A woman asked. My name is Rachel. Nurse Meyer gave me this number. She said your fund might help me. I was told not to file a complaint because the doctor involved is important. I stood straighter. What happened? I asked. She began to cry. I listened, not as Daniel's wife, not as the woman in the hallway, not as the patient whose grief became evidence, as myself. When the call ended, my brothers were quiet. Miles said, You okay? I looked at my phone. Yes, I said, I know what to do. That evening, I walked alone to the old house for the final key handoff. I could have sent Adrian, I almost did, but some places need to see you leave upright. The house was empty when I arrived. No roses, no perfume, no framed gala photo. The mantel was bare. My footsteps echoed against polished floors that had once made me feel proud and then trapped. Daniel stood in the living room. I had not known he would be there. For a second, anger rose. Then I saw his face and realized this was not ambush, it was farewell, clumsy and late. I am not here to argue, he said. You should not be here at all. I know. He held up the keys. I wanted to give these to you myself. The title company handles keys. A faint smile touched his mouth. Still efficient. I did not return it. He looked around the room. It feels smaller, empty. It was always smaller than we pretended. He nodded. For a while. Neither of us spoke. The house carried ghosts, but not all of them were cruel. I remembered painting the kitchen wall the wrong shade of yellow and laughing until we gave up. I remembered Daniel asleep on the couch with medical journals on his chest. I remembered wanting a family. Then I remembered the red dress in my bedroom. Memory is not loyalty. It is only evidence of having lived. Daniel stepped closer, then stopped at a respectful distance. I am leaving the city for a while, he said. A hospital upstate agreed to take me after the review period under supervision. That is good. I am trying to become someone who would not have done what I did. I looked at him carefully. For once, he did not seem to be offering the statement like bait, so I answered without cruelty. I hope you do. His eyes shone. Thank you. That was not a promise. I know. He placed the keys on the mantel, then he reached into his pocket and pulled out my old wedding ring. My chest tightened. I found it in a drawer after you left, he said. I should have returned it sooner. Yes, he held it out. I did not take it from his hand. I opened my purse and held out a small envelope. He dropped it inside. No touch, no accidental brush of fingers, no cinematic spark, no door left open for regret to wander through, just a ring entering storage. Daniel's voice broke. Goodbye, Emma. I looked at the man I had loved, the man who betrayed me, the man who finally understood too late that losing me was not one event but the accumulation of every moment he expected me to disappear for his comfort. Goodbye, Daniel. I walked to the front door. My hand rested on the knob. Behind me, he said, I really did love you. I paused. I know, I said, but love that asks me to vanish is not love I can live in. Then I Opened the door and stepped outside. The rain had stopped, the air smelled clean, washed and cold. My car waited at the curb. Inside it were boxes of patient fund brochures, a pair of flats, 3 missed texts from my brothers arguing over dinner, and a life that did not require Daniel's permission. I turned back once. Daniel stood in the doorway of the empty house. I did not wave. I closed the car door, started the engine, and drove away, not toward revenge, not toward a new man, toward myself.